Only the men will come and they'll end up in the front.
Okay, we're live.
Are we on live? Hi Facebook. Hi Buffalo. I guess today we could almost officially call the first day of spring in the physical existence of Buffalo. Malka Tauger brought Yerushalayim to Buffalo. Thank God. Yeah, we needed it. We've had the indescribably, ineffably interminable winter. It's been really rough. We had snow the other day. I have videos to prove it. So thank you all for joining us tonight. If there are other people, and we set out chairs with the hope, like in Alicia's prophecy, by putting out the jugs, more oil will fill the jug. So if more people come, maybe we'll shift a little bit to your right so that we can fit more people in. But thank you all for coming out on a school night, on a Sunday night, getting babysitters, bringing your babies, doing whatever you needed to do to get here. Thank you very much. And we've got a really fabulous speaker tonight, so I'm going to try to limit what I speak about and then invite a very dear friend of mine to say a word or two. And then after that, we go right into the meat of the program. Tonight's program is sponsored by the Telll Fund in memory of our parents. My dear sister Cindy is with us. Sam and Todd Shatkin are our brothers. It's in memory of our parents who dedicated their lives to the physical and mental and emotional well-being of people in Western New York. We'll hear a moment from Rob about Mom and what she did. Tonight's event is, let's say, by what we call divine providence, hashgacha pratis, the divinely detailed supervision that God gives into everything, between Dad's yahrzeit and Mom's birthday. And Mom's birthday was Shabbos, her Hebrew birthday, and her English birthday is the 28th. So it's all kind of an interesting convalescence. We had to figure out how to get Malka here because I didn't want her traveling when there was, the real Buffalo weather, not the little snow that we had the last couple weeks. It was just the annoying snow. But the real Buffalo snow was really hard to travel in. We decided April is going to be, we hope after Pesach, it's going to be quiet already. So she brought the calmer weather. Thank you very much. So the event is in memory of our parents who did give a lot to Buffalo physically and in other ways. And tonight's event is with this special talk. Mars and Venus are from Genesis because we know everything is from the Torah. It says in Pirkei Avot, keep turning and turning, hafach, hafach. Everything is inside somewhere, the sciences, the arts, the humanities. And so Mars and Venus of Lahavdil, John Gray's book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, will be tonight's talk showing how really everything is from the Torah. The Telll Fund, as you may know, provides educational programs such as these, sponsorships to programs, bolstering community activities that already exist. For instance, Chabad House sometimes gets a little honorarium from the Telll Fund to help for speakers' funds. The Or Tamimim School often receives the benefit of books and curriculae. We have a music program now that's very exciting. I just got a thank you from Rabbi Shanowitz the other day for books that we bought for the library. The Telll Fund bought instruments for the school. It's very exciting to be able, with the small fund that we have, be able to bolster Buffalo's Jewish community in special ways. It's through the Foundation for Jewish Philanthropy, so it is under the 501c3 and worthwhile. And you know it's staying here in Western New York and doing good Jewish stuff in Western New York. And when we started the fund, Cindy will attest, my sister will attest, the person involved, we're not going to mention names because we love this person, said, these funds last for about a year. Dad passed away over 7 years ago. Mom passed away 6 years ago. It's still going strong. And I've got more money in there than ever. Not like it's a lot. I'm not telling you to stop giving, but keep giving. But it's really worthwhile, wonderful stuff. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce my dear old buddy. Well, he's not old. We're just old friends, long friends. Rob Goldberg, who we were in high school together. Robbie and I grew up together. And Rob is now the CEO of our wonderful Jewish Federation, which becomes more and more wonderful by the day because of Rob. Thank you so much for joining. He's going to share a few words about Mom, Joan Shapkin. Thanks, Rob.
And this tzedakah box is critical to my brief comments. So, with thanks to Ellen Goldstein, my partner at the Federation, we have archival material, and you wouldn't believe what we found. But and this is a gift to Rustavora and to Cindy. This is the CV for Joan Ella Shatkin, Mrs. Samuel. I mean, it's incredibly dated. But it's from the late 80s, and it is extraordinary what your mom did for this community and in this community, both within the Jewish community and outside of the Jewish community. And I just want to give you a flavor. I'm going to give this to you because you should have it for your records. But she was a member of every organization in the community. But this is her presidential record. It's just extraordinary. In 1962, she was the president of the National Council of Jewish Women, which makes sense, obviously. And then she moved to the PTA. So you probably know this.
Amherst.
So she was the president of the Eggert Road School PTA, Amherst Central Junior and Senior High PTA, and this is extraordinary, she was, I believe, the first woman president of Temple Beth Zion.
That's correct.
And when you go into Temple Beth Zion in the corridor on the way to the meeting hall, there's a picture of her among all the men. Right. And it's just an extraordinary thing that I remember, that she was the president when we were in high school. And that's really was just amazing. It was amazing. And then she became the president of the American Jewish Committee, which is amazing, and the president of the Rosa Copeland Home, which was the predecessor to Weinberg. Just extraordinary. So with that, I want to give you her
so
record of accomplishments. And
that's just the presidential assignments.
Read the
she
rest
was on
of it.
every other committee just as a member.
Amazing. And so the Pushkas are really significant for what I'm going to say.
The Pushkas upstairs. The Pushkas down here.
Yes, excuse me. So, also in the archives, we found the most extraordinary thing. So she had written this powerful introduction to a group of women that were meeting for the Federation. So she was never the president of Federation, but she became the chair of Women's Philanthropy. So Women's Philanthropy was the women's division, and so this was a kickoff to Women's Philanthropy meeting, and I thought I would share it with you because I think it's, again, both dated and incredibly powerful, just to give you a sample of her magnificent leadership prowess and the contributions that she made for Jewish Buffalo back in the day. So she writes, the Jewish mother classically accepted tzedakah as her obligation, not only as a woman, but as an individual in her own right to help her fellow Jews. In fact, she goes on, it was she, rather than her husband, who filled with coins the pushka, not the pishka. Our women's division is the modern expression of this ancient womanly involvement. With us, it is a matter of evolution and refinement of technique, not a new purpose or a concept. And this involvement can have a permanent effect, this is the best part, on educating our children, and may even serve as a profound influence on our husbands. So with that, we look forward to the presentation tonight, and I'll make a copy of this.
Thank you so much, Rob. Wow. Oh, wow. That was a treat. Thank you so much. Mom was a great speaker also. She was a really wonderful orator. Right, Ellen? She was an amazing orator. But what Rob said is so unbelievable. Remember, my mother, and in that side of the family, my grandmother and great-grandmother were all American-born Reform Jews from the real Mendelssohnian Reform. Not coming as religious people and then not being religious after that or being angry at the Holocaust. These were the real Reform Jews. And that concept of tzedakah that Rob spoke about, that my mother intuitively knew, and Gramp, and sometime soon you'll see the book with Gramp's wonderful ideas and his poetry, if I can get my you-know-what together, that intuitive sense of Jewish involvement, of Jewish community, of Jewish altruism toward your fellow was inherent in our family. It's not an accident that I became observant. It's not an accident that Cindy helps me with every event that I do. It's really in our bones, thanks to Mom and Nana, and going back, and it is the women. It says it's the wisdom of the woman that really builds the home. I don't want to take away Malka's glory, but there's something fascinating about what Rob said that must be remarked upon, just spontaneously, and that is, many years ago, the Rebbe spoke about elevating the material in your world, in your household, and especially the woman's capacity to elevate the food to a higher level by placing a tzedakah box, a pushka, in the kitchen on the wall. People didn't do this, right, Malka? This was uniquely the Rebbe's statement that it needs to be affixed, so it's really in the food, that holiness is permeating the physicality of the home. So thank you, Rob, for that intuitively Hasidic concept that Mom shared. Thank you very much. And without further ado, now I would like to introduce my dear old friend. Now, nothing personal. We are old friends. We're both getting older, but neither of us is really old. Malka knows me from when I was single and directing a program called the Ivy League Torah Study Program, where we took Ivy League students, gave them a stipend to study Torah instead of being waiters in the Catskills or cab drivers in the city and getting their little paper jobs, newspaper jobs in the summertime. So I directed this program, interviewed college kids. Malka and other brilliant people taught in the program, and that's when we probably got our closest. We also met each other in Israel a few times at different programs. But Malka and I have stayed in touch, and now we've rekindled our connection, wanting to do programs, especially for people who are, what did we say, 55 plus? It gets younger all the time, you know. Anyway, Malka and her brilliant husband have written, I lied, I said over 50 books. He's translated over 80 of them in the Mishnah Torah series of the Rambam. But what would you say, 120 books or so?
That's enough, Mr.
That's enough, okay. Well, she's going to speak for herself literally. Come up, Malka Tauger from Yerushalayim.
Thank you, Mr. Barak. So happy we reconnected. Happy to come to Buffalo. Actually, as we speak, I come from Florida, so I actually brought Florida weather to Buffalo. And I feel so much at home. So, speaking about women, special women, first women, we have the legacy created. Where was Eve when Adam was created? Louder. Where was Eve, Chava, when Adam
Attached to her.
Don't tell me the first woman was a rib. She was created from that material. She was not a rib. She wasn't. So where was she? She just wasn't, right? Yes? Okay. Where was he when she was created?
General.
She was in maybe God's imagination?
No. In his thought process. Yes. But she wasn't here in a physical way. Interesting. Genesis. Everything I ever needed to know about marriage, I found out and learned from Genesis. So let's go there. What we'd like to say to John Gray, I'll say it in Israeli, Boker Tov. We've known this Zachar u'nekeva bara otam. He created them, male and female, for 5,778 years. So yeah, Boker Tov, John Gray, write all the books that you'd like, but we know this. Why? How? Because God said so. Na'aseh adam b'tzalmenu kidmutenu. Let's create humanity. Let's create human beings in our life. He created them, male and female. So here we are, trying to squeeze out of Parashat Bereshit, out of that first chapter, so much that we can, understanding what this male-female situation is all about. So where was she? She wasn't. Where was he? He was unconscious. The natural question would be why. But we don't ask God why. He's God. He can do whatever he wants. What we are asking is, what can we learn from that? Because we overlook it. All right, so she wasn't, so he was asleep. Big deal, whatever. Our sages actually paid attention to it and gave us some insight. But I want to take this one step further. What can we learn from the fact that there is male energy and female energy, and this is created when that's not around, and this is created when that is unconscious? What might that teach us? That God wants male energy, and he wants female energy, and as he wanted it to come down into this world in a tangible way, in a practical way, in the creation of she and a he, there should be no interference, no challenge, no contestant, just no competition. Male energy should come down into this world, be fully absorbed with no intrusion, and female energy should come down into this world, fully absorbed. Then he awakens and they'll make a life together. So a total perspective is, it's not judgmental, it's not about competition, it's not about upper end. We need this, and we need that. And so from day one, and so from Pasuk 1, when we're beginning to create the world. But they're so different. They really are so different. Why are we so afraid of things that are different? Why do we feel uncomfortable? Why does John Gray have to write so many books saying the same thing? So, right from the onset, we get an insight into this concept of difference. It was day number 2. What did God create on day number 2? Anyone?
Darkness and the light.
Water.
That was the first day. Day and night. And day number 2 separated the upper waters from the lower waters. Vayas Elokim et harakia. Anybody know what the rakia was?
Firmament.
Firmament. And what does that mean?
A separation.
Separated. So that was Vayavdel. What is this rakia? So the Hebrew word, sorry?
Yeah, some people say it's like the ozone.
Actually, whatever that is, the word rakia in Hebrew stems from the root lirkoa. The actual verb would be to kind of spread out. It's almost like taking just to spread out a carpet or just roll something out. As a matter of fact, we are now reading the portions of the Torah described as kohanim of the priests were made out of various different made golden threads in ancient times. You take the gold, melt it a bit so it's more flexible, and roll it out. It's called lirkoa. Okay, so he spread this heavens, whatever they are, ozone, whatever it is, and that's our horizon. Now, interestingly enough, these heavens, anybody who knows a little bit of Hebrew, what do we call them? Shemayim. Why don't we call them Rakia? That was the original name. The Torah itself calls it Shemayim. Why are they called Shemayim? If Rakia is about spreading out, okay, that makes sense, but Shemayim? Anybody? It's from water, but then what is the shin, the first shin doing there? Esh. So our sages explain, they also inquired about this, that the Shemayim, the heavens, they are created from 2 elements, Esh Umayim, fire and water, which is lightning and water as in rain, and more in storms and so on. What's the message? Why did God have to give another name? Or better yet, what can we learn from the fact that God gave another name to these heavens? What's the relationship between Eish Shemayim? Opposites? They quench.
They're different.
They're very different. And not only are they different, but there's a lot of friction between them. One can consume the other. One can quench the other. So our sages say something different, something interesting, and tell us that it's called Eish Shemayim because those were the components, those were the materials that God used. But those two don't usually get along. But to fulfill the word of God, that there shall be a firmament, there shall be heavens, they joined. They joined forces. Wasn't so easy, you know, there's water, there's fire, there's friction. But you know, friction is not so terrible. If not for friction, I wouldn't be here, neither would you. How's that? Because, no, I'm talking about the element of friction. I wasn't reflecting what happened. Oh, wait a minute, you know what? You got a point there. I think I'll include my next one. Get in the car, go. If there's no friction between the wheel and the asphalt, you're not going to get anywhere. You know about it in Buffalo with the ice. So friction is not necessarily such a hindrance. Friction can actually propel growth. We can learn from Genesis about male, female. So there's friction. Big deal. He told us. They're different. Zachar and Nekeva. Two separate types of human beings. I want them both. I need them both. Where did he get it from, by the way? This, you know. It's so obvious that that's how the human being would be created. Why? Because God prefaced the creation of the human being by stating, Naaseh Adam, let us make Almeinu Kidmusenu, in our likeness. Oh, so God has elements of male characteristics and female characteristics. Oh, so human beings follow that as well. In truth, Kabbalah teaches us, and we know this from various other. Every male has female characteristics as well. Every female has male characteristics. This one has more dominant male, this one has more dominant female, but there is a combination of both. This God will make a life together in this world, just like the Eish and the Mayim. Under the chuppah, we tell a bride, we tell a groom. Samach to samach. Be happy. What kind of happiness? Kisamecha yitzircha, just as God had made you happy a long time ago. First man, first woman, where? Began Eden Mikeden, in the Garden of Eden. Oh, you want paradise in this world. What are we telling them? What was so unique about the first male and the first female in the Garden of Eden? Before the apple.
They had no shame.
Sorry?
They had no shame.
They had no shame. Before they had no shame, what else did they not have?
A mother. Worries.
A mother, worries. How about any other human being who can be their spouse? Was the only one. Says Torah. That's how marriage should be. Like it was then. Oh, there's a lot of variety out there. No. This is the only one. For me, in this life, under these conditions, these circumstances, this is the absolutely only one. So that's food for thought in terms of Gan Eden Mikeda. There's more. When God created this woman, Torah states it as follows. She would be for him as what? Oh, I hate that word. You know why? Because you can hire help. When I first started going out lecturing, my husband would say, "Oh my gosh, hiring help for all the things that you do was so expensive." Oh, good. You finally realize. Yeah, you can hire help. So why doesn't Torah use that phrase? It's kind of strange. And not only Ezer Kenegdo, a helpmate, opposite him. Wait a minute. supposed to be on your side? Aren't you supposed to be one team? So first of all, let's go back to the help and try to clarify that a little bit. We have a lot of people, maybe some sitting in this audience, they're out there to help us as the individuals, but we wouldn't call them helpers. For example, you're not feeling well, you go see a doctor. What does the doctor do for you?
Make you better, you hope.
Can he make you better?
Not always.
Not always. And not directly.
He or she can determine what you have.
Okay, so via diagnosis and via suggestions on what to take and what to do and how to live your life and so on, what is he doing?
Awakening.
Awakening? Find a better word.
Facilitating?
Facilitating? Go back to the Torah word.
Teaching?
Ezer. Help. Enable. What is he enabling? Your health. Thank you. That's what a doctor is. Doctor doesn't cure. The doctor doesn't make you well. He enables you to be healthy. So we don't call him a helper. He's not a helpmate. He's a doctor. So let's, with that same vision, let's view the women. And for that matter, the spouses, each one for the other, because it's Ezer Kenegdo, opposite him. They're both supposed to enable each other. What's the Kenegdo all about? Opposite. What does that mean? Opposite, opposition. Well, we said there's room for friction, but opposition, now, like that's like tough stuff.
Weakness and strength, weakness and strength.
So what is Kenegdo? Kenegdo means opposite him. Let's try to find something in our daily life, an item that we use that is directly
Mirror.
opposite us. Good, thanks. Take that thought a little further. Now what? So she's enabling him
To see himself.
to see himself. Thank you very much, because mirrors don't lie.
Did you pay her before that? Thanks, Anita.
So that's what God is saying. Humanity, I'm gifting you with an adult structure for life, whereby you will have a spouse, please God, that will be there to enable you to live up to your potential. And because it's opposite, what does that grant the spouse? The one word which for the individual is very difficult. If we talk about love, our sages tell us the greatest of all loves is self-love.
You have to love yourself.
You have to love yourself. However, that could interfere with conducting yourself in the manner in which perhaps one should, because we are subjective and not objective to ourselves. So what does the mirror enable us to do? See it as it is. There's the spouse that is there opposite, not to fight, opposite in order to enable you to see you in a manner where you cannot see yourself. And obviously she should do it in an enabling way, not just pinpointing and drawing, bringing to the forefront all the faults. We'll get to that. So here's our enabler. And Torah tells us something very interesting about this opposite. When he created them, says Torah, Zachar u'nikeva bara otam, male and female he created them. We're going to learn a shtickle Gemara now, a little bit of a Talmud discussion, something interesting. So there's a discussion in the Talmud, and the greatest commentary, simplistic, tells us and quotes this commentary by saying that he created them both one unit. Male and female, he created them. They were both this one unit. So there's a discussion in Talmud is, what did that unit look like? Sounds interesting, eh? What's with our sages? They're just like curious. The discussions in the Talmud are not just like the pastime of conversation in the Beit Midrash. They're teaching us something. Now, just a moment. That creation that was a combined male and female in one unit, did it last? No. Not at least as we know it. For the 5,778 years, we know male as one and female as another. So it didn't even last. So why are our rabbis discussing it? It didn't have any bearing on how male and female would interact and would function. So what difference is if there was a certain process there where God created this one unit and they were combined and they were joined and then he literally sawed them apart. The nasel is the word of the Gemara, which means to saw, separated them. So
Surgical. Surgical.
Surgical. Why are the Talmudic sages discussing this? So here we go. Let's try to understand it a little bit. And what might be the message? If Talmudic sages start to happen, what happens in discussions in the Talmud?
There could be arguments.
All right, there we go. We have opinions. How many opinions?
2 Jews, 3 opinions.
There we go. So we'll actually pinpoint 4 different opinions. So here's the discussion. It sounds like a very hypothetical discussion. And the question is, where were they joined? What did this look like? And so their opinions. Let's go with opinion number 1. What was opinion number 1? Here it is.
Outside.
Hmm?
The side.
That'll be opinion number 4. Back to back. Good. That's opinion number 1. Back to back. Okay.
They were Siamese twins. They were
Of a
literally
sort.
Siamese twins.
Of a sort. Question. Are there any advantages to this kind of joining? To this kind of union? Okay, let's go with advantages. What might be the advantage? It's not right in your face, okay? What else?
They both see different sides of the same issue.
Good. She sees 180 degrees, he sees 180 degrees. Together they have a full vision of the world. Sounds good, eh? What else?
You have to be in sync to go wherever you want to go.
Wait, we'll get to that in just a minute. Hang in there for a second. But
Each other's back.
good. What's the strongest part? What's the most erect?
Your back?
The back. So, you know, you want to marry somebody that you can lean on. And you're leaning on the back of that someone. Great. Sounds like it's very advantageous. But it didn't last. So there must be some disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages? Only disadvantages.
Can't see each other's face.
Can't see each other's face. It has
No
an
intimacy.
advantage and a disadvantage.
There's no intimacy. It's not.
Oh, you know what? I'm not sure I could say that because I have no idea what God's intention was in terms of intimacy. We're talking about physical intimacy. Talking about emotional, psychological intimacy. Okay,
When
fine.
you see each other versus.
Okay.
You mean trust, right?
In other words, trust is a good
No,
point.
I assume that's what Melody meant.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, not that.
Okay. In other words, and just practical. It's very hard to hug this way, you know. I mean, I don't know, maybe whatever. So yeah, that difficulty.
And it's hard to communicate because you can't see each other.
Can't read the other person, and so on and so forth.
Say a face is really the inside.
Sure, honey. Sure.
You don't have the
Okay, so what do we have here in this discussion? There are advantages and disadvantages. What's the main focus, goal, hope, dream of a marriage? You got married in your 20s. What does this mean?
door for door.
Door for door, children, but I'm talking actually about the spouses themselves.
Intimacy, not even, I'm talking mental, you know, it doesn't have to be physical.
Trust, all these important factors. You get married in your 20s, how many more years do you have to live together? 100, that's a lot. What would you hope would happen during these years?
Grow
Growth,
together.
thank you very much. You grow together. You marry young, you grow together. Whatever it is that you marry, you want to grow, you want to advance, you want to progress. Specifically, if God intended a man's life in this world, human being's life in this world, is to grow and to progress, and gave him a spouse so that she will enable you in the manner of becoming in the likeness of God, which, by the way, is not happening so fast. This is just in parentheses. Let's go back to the beginning of creation, where God created those who preceded the human being. So the animals. how did God command the animals should emerge?
2 by 2.
That was later on coming into
sorry.
the ark. That's okay. How are they supposed to emerge? Some animals came from the ground. Some animals came from the sea, from the water. What is the verbalization that enables these creatures to come out of the ground? Because it was all created via verbalization of God. What did God say? Totse haaretz nefesh chaya. Let the earth bring forth nefesh chaya, living beings, living creatures, soul that should have life as opposed to the vegetable kingdom. Same thing with the waters. Yishritzu hamayim nefesh chaya. In other words, the creation are called living beings, living souls, what have you. When it came to man, God first created this form. He was not a nefesh chaya yet. Later, God breathed His spirituality into man. Vayipach ba'apo nishmat chayim. He breathed life into him. Vayehi ha'adam lenefesh chaya. And man then became nefesh chaya. Rabbi Samson Raphael here says an interesting thing. It says Vayehi ha'adam, and man became lenefesh chaya, unto a living thing. Why doesn't it just say he became a living thing like the animals did? Oh, because the process for man to become what he's supposed to be, Adam, a mensch, could be a process. It's not like the animals, they're created, and as soon as they're born, they can stand, they can walk, they can take care of themselves in a short amount of time. But with human beings, it takes a little bit more time. Sometimes, childhood, sometimes lots of adulthood. So it's not going to happen so fast. And here we are as adults, trying to become the nefesh chaya, which we are supposed to become, unto, spend a lifetime trying to be that. Trying to remember that when God created the world, Bereshit bara Elokim, in the beginning God created Shamayim va'aretz, right? Heavens and the earth. Question. So, were the heavens and earth already created at that beginning of the story? Not sure. It says in the beginning He created heavens and earth, and then all the details. Second pasuk, following that, Ve'ha'aretz hayta tohu vavohu. And this earth that He created was tohu vavohu. We'll get to what that means in just a moment. But if the earth was tohu vavohu, was the earth created, yes or no, at this point in creation? Yes, it was created. The Aretz, this land, which God created, is, what does it look like? What is its shape? What is its form? How does it function? Tohu vavohu. Right from the onset of creation. What's the message? So what does tohu vavohu mean? So in Hebrew, we translate as chaos, a void in some translation. But what does it really mean? It's Hebrew. And Hebrew is the language of God. So that's what he meant. Thank you very much.
For your nefesh chaya.
Still trying to become the nefesh chaya. Tohu comes from the Hebrew root lithot. Lithot means to wonder. Bohu comes from the Hebrew word lithot, which means to be surprised, almost stupefied. From the beginning, God said, you know what, man? There are going to be a lot of things in this world that you're going to be stupefied by. That you're going to stand there and wonder and say, oh, wow, why? How could he be? How could she? It's okay. There's going to be tohu vavohu. How much more? Even Moses asked God, why do bad things happen to good people? Yeah, there are going to be things in this world that you're going to stand and look at them and be stupefied by them. That's okay. It's built in creation. But how can he do? Because he's taking his time becoming the nefesh chaya that he's supposed to become. And my job is to enable. That's all. There it is. How you live a life as a married person, right in the onset of creation of the world.
You can also use is the regular translation, chaos. And also,
But I like the
Yes,
total
I do
like
too.
surprise and wonderment and stupefied.
shock.
What was he thinking? What did she mean? All right, it's okay. That's the way God created the world. So here we are. Some advantages, some disadvantages. If the most important thing in life is to understand that we're on this journey to become the Nefesh Chaya, then the most important element of our adult lives as married people is to progress. Is, as you said before, growth, to live up to our potential. So now let's look at how much growth can there be? Can there? How much? You're saying no. Why not? They're trying to get somewhere. So one pulls there, so they get there, and then the one pulls in the middle. We're not going anywhere in this matter. Bear that in mind. Second opinion. If it's not this way, then what is it?
Side to side?
That was going to be the fourth.
Facing
Second
each other.
opinion is facing each other. Where exactly was the cutoff point? I don't know. Facing each other. Let's go with it. Now you got it, so let's continue creating this medrash together. Not medrash, discussions down the line. So they're face to face. What are the advantages? You can see each other. Who wouldn't want somebody to be totally focused on them for 120 years? Not bad. What else?
Communication.
Communication, embrace, on all levels, comes very easy. Anything else?
Advantageous or disadvantageous?
Advantageous.
Well, you can see past them too.
You can see a little past that, but you're taking them in the picture.
You can read their expression.
Read their expression very well. Okay. Disadvantages.
You can read their expression.
You can translate that into a very common, unfortunately, complaint in marriage. When there's that much closeness.
Too close. I
Some
need
breathing
space.
space. Some breathing space. She never gives me any breathing space. Or here, or whatever.
That's the man cave. That's John Gray.
Horatius preceded John Gray.
I read the books.
No, it's okay. That there's a disadvantage here because there's to the exclusion of others. That's enough. You know, this bohemian couple, they're very into themselves, love it. Gotta get up and make a living sometime, you know? Doesn't work that way. And then, of course, what's the greatest disadvantage in marriage? To progress, to move. What happens here? Why can't you go?
Somebody
Because someone's in the way. Because you're basically falling over each other. You're basically tripping over each other. And that's no way to progress. Of course, all these are metaphors. But this definitely reflects. Can there be two?
I think you need a variety.
Okay, but there can be marriages as such. Okay? There are. There are. So, we'll get back to this in just a moment. Opinion number 3.
One in front of the other.
Good. That's opinion number 3.
Yeah, but who's in front?
Okay. Here we go. What's the advantage?
There's a leader, possibly.
Wait, somebody mentioned they're both focused in the same direction. That's pretty good. You know? What else? You mentioned. Okay. What else? Isn't it good when you have somebody continuously behind you, catch you, guide you, what have you?
But what about the person behind? They don't have someone behind them.
Good. So what's a disadvantage?
It's all
One person
focused
feels
on one
behind.
person. No
One
one's
person-
watching the person in the back.
Okay. There's a lack of backing here, figuratively and literally speaking. What about the leadership? If it's like this, then one is always the leader. And one is always what we call in Yiddish the Nachschlepper. You know, like they're just tagging along. the
Can't you
follower.
trade places every now and then?
They're combined. They're joined.
They're stuck.
Stuck.
They need to be sawed apart.
How about progress? Can they move?
Only the direction that the person.
Only in one direction. the
Of the
one
leader.
that the leader chooses.
Congrats.
Okay, so there's advantage and disadvantage, but in general, this idea of always in this direction, a little hard to swallow. Okay, last. Opinion, as you mentioned. Okay. It sounds really good. What are the advantages?
Equal.
Sense of equality. What else?
Next to each other,
Next to each other.
They can't
facing the same
They
direction.
can communicate, facing the same direction. They're headed in the same direction. Sounds so good. If it's so good, what's so bad? Any disadvantages?
No one's looking in the other direction.
Sorry?
No one's able to look in the other direction.
Okay, but as a human being, we can't really do that.
But they could both turn around together.
They could turn around together. What's the disadvantage?
Maybe somebody is weaker and wants support and wants to be
Yes.
guided.
Okay, so what is a major disadvantage? I would like to propose that's once again in the area of progression. What's the problem? They're both headed in the same direction.
They're always going at the same pace.
Always have to be in sync. Good.
Very good.
So here we go. Different opinions in the Talmud. Why are the Talmudic scholars having this discussion? What bearing does it have upon us? These units, as we describe them, were not part of this world as we know it. So our sages explain. The very fact that God had created such a unit, what might that mean?
That they're meant to be together.
That there is room for such a unit to exist. Then that unit was separated, and we know it as we know it today. So what happened to that unit? How long was it here in this physical world? Because it was. How long? I'm not asking the amount of time because we have no idea. When it comes to time, the 6 days of creation, how long was that day? How long did this entire period of time last? When I'm asking about length of time, I'm focusing on within the context of having this unit in this world compared to the having this unit in this world. This existed, but temporarily, only for a short amount of time. And this exists. Yes.
Are you, so obviously the shot doesn't know multi-gender being. Is this more like a medrash?
This is a Talmudic discussion, and what I'm sharing with you is what I've learned from the commentaries on the Talmud. What are the rabbis trying to teach us? Just as we have many commentaries on many discussions in the Talmud that hone in on what is the halacha. So what are you supposed to do? Here, this is a discussion where it's not applicable in any which way to us in our world in terms of halakha, Jewish practice. So why are they sharing it? Why are they having this discussion? Because it could be teaching us something about how we can conduct our marriage. So the very fact that such a unit existed temporarily perhaps implied that there's room for such a unit. Now let's go with that thought and think about that in a practical way. Let's go back to the first one. What did this imply? Back to back. Let's go to the disadvantages we were focused on. What did we say?
No equality.
No progress.
No progress, no equality, they don't see each other. Let's go back to that concept and try to apply that to temporary life. In other words, that exists in this world, it did exist in this world temporarily. So can there be a time in a marriage where a couple senses and feels this?
Sure.
You don't have to run to a marriage counselor. It's okay. Such a unit existed. Sometimes we need to get our own space. Sometimes we have a sense that, I need to go home a little bit in order to empower myself to come back to this marriage properly. I don't mean physically going elsewhere, but a person really introspection, assess myself. What we call, from a Hasidic perspective, work on oneself, big time. Real hitbonenut, meditation. Take time to really look in a total different direction where I see clearly. So yes, there's room for that.
But
But couldn't you say it for an advantage that you say my spouse has my back or I have my spouse?
Yeah. Even then we can say, obviously, it should be a choice whereby we're backing each other on this. That's why that kind of separation has to be backed by the other, and then it could be fruitful. If it's not, then we're just in trouble. So that's interesting. So here, what might be one of these suggestions in terms of marriage from Genesis? There could be a time for that. There could be a place for that. There could be something temporary. It's not good if that's the way you live your life, where he and she have different focuses, where they are both involved in other things, where they don't spend enough time together, and so on and so forth. On occasion, it actually may enhance the marriage. On occasion, it actually, as long as it's temporary, as long as they're connected, and they know that they're doing this for the betterment of the marriage, good. Now let's take that same thought and do this. Remember this connection? So does it have room in a marriage? God created such a unit in this world. So maybe on occasion within the context of a marriage, we need to refocus on each other. Maybe we've spent too much time each like running their own chores, going through the day, going through the week. It become months where we haven't really connected in a proper way. So yes, there can be a temporary time where the couple can exclude everything else and really take time out for themselves. Not only can be, sometimes maybe there should be. Maybe sometimes that's exactly what's prescribed. God says that's okay. God says there is such a unit in this world, as long as it's temporary. Number 3, what about this?
Sure.
When? Describe.
They can't both be leaders, they can't both be followers, so at some point you have to give in and let somebody be the leader and somebody be the follower.
And that could actually be temporary. For example, if she just had a baby, take care of everything. You feed them, clothe them, get them to the bus on time. Me clothe the kids, you know what they're going to look like? Doesn't matter. Whatever you do is fine. You're the leader now. I appointed you leader for now. That could be within the context of her inability at that point, or
if the person has a greater capacity in another area and it complements the other.
Exactly. Or it could be in a sphere, in an area, in a particular function. It could be in the area of finances. What if she's better at it? So I give it all over to you. What do you mean, you have no say in finances? No, I don't even want it. I appointed leader from day one. I'm not interested. Or he appointed her because she's much better at it. Could that be? Yes. So it could be in timing, and it could be in sphere of function. And it could work, because God created it. If he's a better cook, she'd only be happy if he goes through the kitchen.
He's the best laundryman.
Wow! Kudos to you. So there you go.
I wouldn't know how to use the thing. That's what mom taught me.
So there's for opinion number 3. And opinion number 4, what about that one? On the one hand it sounds so romantic, we're always in sync, but we kind of sense that that's not so good. However, if God created such a phenomenon, not only is there an advantage there is a need, maybe, an importance in some spheres of life where there need to be in sync. He and she need to be in sync. For example, raising kids, of course. Now, it's tricky because, kids figure it out. Who to go for this and who to go for that, So where's the thing? It's okay for kids to know that mom and dad have different opinions. And when a decision is made, it's okay even to tell the children. Well, we don't have to hide it from you. Especially if they're teenagers, they know exactly that mom differs from dad on this particular issue. We have differences in opinion, but under the circumstances, for this situation, we have decided that we're going to come to this decision. And that's what's going to happen. And they're in sync. And Torah tells us. Actually, Torah describes a very sorry state of affairs where there's a child who's like out of control. He just can't handle himself or others. He's a menace to society, and he needs to be literally put away. The wording of that pasuk is Asher eineno shomea bekol aviv uvekol imo. He doesn't listen to the voice of his father and the voice of his mother. Why? Torah doesn't mince its words. Why doesn't Torah say he doesn't listen to the voice of his father and his mother, or to the voice of his parents? Because that's the problem. There are two voices there in this home. That way he's totally spiraled out of control. He doesn't listen to the voice of his father, the voice of his mother. Mixed messages, and he can't get a handle on life. So here we have, back to Bereshit, these instances whereby from the wording of Torah, upon which there is, for example, this discussion in Talmud, that we get an inkling of an idea that Torah prescription for marriage is the right way. It's a good way. Makes sense. He's the creator. He created male and female. So let's take time out to learn and understand what are God's messages to us, specifically in the sphere of male and female. Two more points before I end. So Adam and Chava, and they're in Gan Eden. And there was this tree, and it was a story, and it was a problem, and we live happily ever after. So what happened when God turned to Adam and said, "Did you eat from that tree?" How did he respond?
She made me do it.
She made me do it. How did Chava respond to that?
Snake made me do it.
You know, okay, the snake told me. The snake was an element in that. We have to understand what that means, but it's not for now. But I'll be very honest, and I'll share with you what I would have said. I made you do it? What did I do? Pry open your mouth? Feed it? Spoon feed it? You know, like, you could have asked me if you had any questions. I didn't make you eat it. I showed it to you. It looked attractive to you as well. You know, go ahead. I didn't make you do it. Yes? No, anybody here with me on that one? But she didn't say that. She didn't say it. What did she do?
She backed him up.
She swallowed it. She swallowed a couple of frogs. She held her peace. In that manner, she was really the ultimate spouse. And it's interesting to note that Adam didn't forget. Sometimes spouses have to remind each other about, like, you owe me one. But he didn't forget. Later, when God told him what the consequence would be, what was the consequence? They're going to be sent out of Gan Eden. Now, what kind of life are they going to have? Okay, so out of paradise. Who lives in paradise?
It'd be a hard life.
What was going to be hard about this life? And not stam work.
Schwitz.
You're going to schwitz. You're going to really schwitz there. And what's more, you're going to work, and you're going to plant, and you're going to sow, and you're going to invest energy. What is she going to bring forth?
Thorns and thistles.
Thorns and thistles. So it's bad enough that it's hard work, and it's not going to be fruitful. How does he respond to that? What did Adam do there? What should, or not should, what could he have said? Maybe there'll be a better woman out there. But what could he have said? Look, Chava, look what you brought upon us. You know, this was, when he didn't respond, God hadn't as of yet told him about the consequence. But now he knows the consequence. That's terrible. What's more, what else did God add to that?
Her suffering.
Pain. Her suffering?
Shame.
Shame? Death.
Yeah.
They were supposed to live forever.
Yeah, that's
Whatever that means. So, what? That's pretty bad. You know? And he didn't respond to that at all.
He backed her up.
What did he say? It's interesting. At that point, God looks to looks to his wife and he said, Lazot tikare, no, that was the first one. Vaikra et shma, and he called her Chava. Then, Lama Chava, ki hi aim kol chai. He called her Chava because she is the mother of all living things. What does that mean? And that act, that naming at that point, what's the connection?
Why not Chaya? Why not Chaya instead of Chava?
Because it's about the good coming down into this world, out of Gan Eden,
sure.
and so on. It's so strange that it comes there. Suggestions. He's making a statement. What is he saying?
She's a real person.
Mm.
She has a name.
She had a name before. We're going to go back to her name in just a moment.
Oh, now they're separated?
She has a place, she has a personality.
Name, personality, place, and more than that.
Job.
If she's
Oh,
here,
and the
Job,
role.
role.
if she's here, so then we'll.
Ah. Now what kind of life are we going to have outside of paradise? It's going to be, we're going to progress and grow towards death. We're going to work hard, and it's going to be very hard, and we're going to have to struggle and invest so much in order to reap the fruit of our efforts. That's a hard life. And we're going to be separated from this closeness to spirituality. What was in paradise? God walks about freely. The presence of God, the Shekhinah, is very much apparent. They speak. God speaks to them. That's not going to be outside of Gan Eden, outside of paradise. How could I possibly live such a life? Asked Adam. He asked that himself. Oh, I could. I have a mother of vitality as my partner. Ein kol chai. This is a journey of death. Well, she'll be my partner in life. He ein kol chai. She's the mother of all vitality. And with that, I could somehow manage in the world. That's a marriage. He actually asked her something about the relationship when he first named her. What happened? This was her second name. By the way, woman was given two names at creation. Man had only one. Later on, he's going to be, first he was called Adam. Later on, he's called Ben Adam, Gever, Enosh, Ish. But at creation, only one name. Come on, woman, comment. I can only do one thing at a time, remember? She's given two names, Chava and Isha. What's inherent in those names? Chava, life. Nurturing her own children, other people's children, communities, building, expanding. Yeah. What about Isha?
Fire.
They have the God.
Interesting, fire.
They've God in both of them.
God in both of them, and more. The word Ish and Isha share the same root as the word Ishiyut, which is a modern Hebrew word, personality, character. So perhaps we can read into this that from the onset, God was giving women, and this is for women, I need to understand this too, a message. Mothering, nurturing, and personality. You can handle both. What do I expect of you? I expect you to invest yourself in that nurturing position, in that nurturing role. I also expect of you to develop your personality. I expect of you to continue your personal growth, even though the nurturing role can take up a whole chunk of time and years, but never ends, even when they're older, even when the grandchildren come along. You can do it. You can juggle both. You can handle both. And what's more, they both are able to complement each other. Anybody who, please God, has had the opportunity to be a mother knows that being a mother, or for that matter, any kind of nurturer, you suddenly find yourself being just about everything to everyone. You never knew. That could be, chauffeur, doctor, cook, all in one. You never know, you can go with sleep deprivation for like 20 years. and a bunch of other things. adds, that contributes to who you are and how you see yourself and how you handle yourself and handle others. By the same token, the more a woman invests in her personality and her personal growth, specifically as a Jewish woman, learning more Torah, as the Rebbe charged us. Yes, Jewish women should learn a lot of Torah, and they should learn about being a woman from a Torah perspective. Now that's going to contribute to your mothering, to your nurturing, because you're going to bring something to your nurturing. Be that as it may. So the first time that Adam gave her that name, it was Isha. God created this woman. He took one look at her and said, oh, it was like a song, it was like a prose. Lazot tikare Isha. She's going to be called Isha. Ki me'ish lukacha. Because she was taken from Ish. Oh. What does that mean? Chava could have turned to him and say, just a minute. What was your name at creation? Well, what was it? Adam. So what should she have been brought? She should have been named Adama. Well, then the earth took that one, so okay. Come on, Israelis amongst you, give other suggestions.
Adamit.
Admit, why not? Admonit. Why Ish? More so, amongst the different titles of the male that we find in Torah, we mentioned a couple of them. Adam, Ben Adam, Gever, Enosh. Ish is considered the highest title.
Ish is what?
The highest title. It's a very complimentary title. We find that with Moses. Umoshe Ha'ish. And Moses, the man. Or Moshe himself was called this, and later on prophets, Ish Elokim, a man of God. What does that mean? You're either God or you're a man. No, it's this level that a human being can achieve. Such high caliber, right? Right. And so we find throughout Torah numerous people. So Ish is a very high title. What was he saying to her? So the feminists don't like this. Oh, she's an Isha because he's an Ish. No, she's an Isha because she's an Isha. Not because he's an Ish. There's a message here. What is the Ish part of him? The Ish is the exalted. The Ish is a high caliber title. It's something to look up to. It's something to admire. It's a level. What is Adam saying to her? We're in this together. This is not going to be so easy. I have a request to make of you. See, my ego's a little fragile. I know I have faults. Do you mind, as much as possible, focusing on the Ish in me and not on the lower levels of male function? Could you please always look at those exalted, admirable, highly refined characteristics that are reflected by the word Ish? And that's why I'm calling you Isha, so you can remember that. Maybe because women have this nature to take all the good for granted and pinpoint the faults, as do men. So Torah tells us that's what a marriage is all about. Focus on the other person's merits. Focus on his strength. Focus on all the good stuff that he has to offer. Now that's not so far-fetched. How so? Because marriage is all about love, right? So, how do we love? Torah tells us how to love. So what does Torah tell us? Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your fellow man as yourself. So much ink has been poured on trying to pinpoint, okay, how do we do this mitzvah? How do we do this mitzvah? I have lots of questions about this. Question number one is, how can God command us an emotional feeling? I either have it or I don't have it. Point number one. Point number two, just a minute, what do you mean love? If he, she behaves in a lovable way, then I'll respond in a lovable way. It's conditioned. I mean, love, no matter what? Yeah. So how do you do it? And how can it be a mitzvah? Tell me to put up a mezuzah. A mezuzah is a piece of parchment. Oh, I understand. Good, parchment, right? It has to be, a skull has to be proper. All kinds of laws. What are the laws of loving? How do you put that into law? and most important is, what do you actually do? And how can we do it? So the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave us an answer. Simple, straightforward. So simple that it takes a brilliant persona to present it. And he said the answer is in the wording. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love the fellow as yourself. So how do we love ourselves? So back to the Ish concept, faults and attributes, strengths and weaknesses. So how do we love ourselves? Do I have faults? Oh, big time. I know my faults better than anybody else. I also have some strengths. So what do I do about that? Well, to be honest, quite embarrassed, but I'll share. My strengths I kind of bring to center stage in the limelight and make them known and, strengths. Faults, I know they're there. I hide them, quite honestly. Push them under the rug. And if, God forbid, they kind of come peeping out, then what do? First I'll push them back. If I can't do that, justify, rationalize, explain away, right? That says the Rebbe, bingo. That's what we do. That's how God created the human being. So you're so good at it. You are so trained in this. You do it all the time for yourself. Do it for your spouse. Do it for the other. Faults? Of course everybody has them. But focus on the good. Bring that to the limelight. Talk about that. Spread that. Enable that. Encourage that. That's what Adam was telling Chava. Just focus on the good. And in an enabling way, mirror the negative and help me work on that. But main thing, focus on the good. And in conclusion, as we are in Sefer Vayikra, and we are reading about the service of God in the sanctuary. So in the innermost room of the sanctuary, the Holy of Holies, which is actually strongly connected to marriage, to relationship, to intimacy, and even the imagery there reflects it, in that on top of the Holy Ark were the cherubs. And one had a male face and one had a female face, and they were these creatures and so on. This was a reflection of God's relationship with the Jewish people. He was the male counterpart, the Jewish people are the female counterpart. It's interesting in Torah that when it describes what they should look like, so they should be placed on top of the kaporis, which sits on top, it's like the cover on top of the ark, on top of this box. And there are these two creatures, creature-like, and they face each other. They should be panim el panim. They should face each other. However, it also says, in another place, when describing what they look like, it says that their eyes were cast downward. So, how do you solve that one? They're contradictory. Contradictory was either or. They're either facing each other or they're looking downwards. Is there a compromise? Is there a way of upholding both psukim, both texts, and they should both coexist? So our sages say, yeah. They were facing each other, so they were panim el panim. But the gaze was downward. Well, what's the point of being panim el panim, face to face, if the gaze is elsewhere? This is the point of a Jewish marriage. What's in the ark? The Torah, the Luchot, Jewish lifestyle, God's words, our destiny. So we should be face to face in our relationship. We should definitely sense the other, the closeness, the bond, the connection and such. That's what face to face is all about. But always keep our eyes on Torah. Enable Torah to guide us in our relationship. And in that manner, we will be able to sustain and strengthen and have a kind of relationship as the original creator of male and female intended. Thank you very much for your attention.
anybody have any specific questions he or she wants to ask Malka?
Yes, where do you teach in Yerushalayim?
I teach at a place called Midrashet Chaya, which is Midrashet Or
Info?
Chaya. Midrashet Or Chaya, which is in the Geula area of Yerushalayim.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. Those people who joined us on Facebook, thank you for joining us. Tellfund.org. You can send a donation if you would like. We would appreciate it. Tell is spelled with 3 L's. Thank you, live audience, for joining us tonight. Please take refreshments and pushkas, envelopes, and schmooze with each other. Thank you.